Our first speaker is Vanessa Beltrano. She is running for Pima County Board of Supervisors District 4 against a guy we know we don't like, Christie. Sorry to cuss. Would you introduce yourself and let us know your platform and what you're running for?
Hello, thank you all for having me. I'm Vanessa Bechtal. I am the Democratic candidate for Pima County Board of Supervisors here in District 4. I do not have a primary, so I'd like to introduce myself and take a little bit of your time, but also allow time for candidates who do have a primary. And I want to start by saying thank you because thanks to Green Valley Democrats, I'm on the ballot. And so the number of Green Valley signatures on my nominating petition was maybe about 25% of the total. So thank you, I appreciate you. And I'm really excited to be here to introduce myself to you. I never actually wanted to be an elected official or run for office, but like a lot of people who live in District 4 and live throughout Pima County, I have felt over the last 4 years in particular very disappointed in our lack of leadership that we have on the Board of Supervisors from our county supervisor. And so I felt compelled to step up and still feel compelled to step up and do something to bring my values to the board and work to improve quality of life for everybody in Pima County, but be an advocate for the residents of District 4, because we deserve a leader who is passionate about our community. We deserve a leader who has a positive outlook for Pima County and who is willing and eager and excited to engage with you all and with residents throughout the county. And I have 20 years experience in public service doing just that. So I moved to Tucson in 1996 to attend the University of Arizona. And one of the reasons I chose Tucson as home after college is because of the people. It's because of the sense of place and belonging that I felt in our community, that I still feel today. And it's because the people, the culture, our rich history, our beautiful natural environment. And so after I earned a master's degree in planning, I stayed in Tucson and I started working at a small nonprofit organization focused on conservation planning. And in that role, we partnered with Pima County, actually, to protect wide open spaces and to work with private landowners who wanted to improve their wildlife habitat. And I love the work. I have a very strong conservation ethic. I have since I was a child. And I would have continued doing that work, but I had an opportunity to step up into a leadership role. I was hired as executive director of the Santa Cruz Valley Heritage Alliance. Some of you maybe are familiar with that organization. It's the nonprofit that manages the Santa Cruz Valley National Heritage Area, which is all about sense of place, history, culture, our natural heritage, connecting people to our heritage to help instill a regional identity. And in that role, one of the skills that I gained, I gained a lot of leadership skills running an organization, but I also learned about the importance of taking a more regional approach to community engagement, but to problem solving. And I think that's a skill set that is very important for a county supervisor, because while you're representing the residents in your district, the votes that you take, the decisions that you make, the conversations that you have, or the lack of conversations that you have impact everybody in the entire county. So I look forward to bringing that experience and skill set to the Board of Supervisors. Because of my work doing community engagement and heritage-based economic development and tourism with the Heritage Alliance, I was ultimately recruited by Visit Tucson to lead up a new community partnership program. And I'm in that role now. We'll be in there as long as I can until I have to step down to really focus 100% of my time on this campaign. But I focus on community engagement. I focus on aligning the needs and the wants of residents with the economic impact that tourism has on the community, making sure that there's synergy there and that those two things are not in conflict. And so I work with the team with our membership program, where we support more than 500 local businesses with training, with marketing support, and together as a team we generate billions of dollars of investment in Pima County and tens of thousands of jobs for Pima County residents. So the final area of public service I want to mention is my time spent as an honorary commander at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. Are there any veterans here today? Thank you, a handful of you. Thank you for your service. I did not grow up in a military family. I had very limited experience. So the opportunity to serve as an honorary commander was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get an inside look at the daily lives of the airmen and women on base. And I have a lot of respect for the sacrifice that they make, but also that their families make. And so in my role as a county supervisor, I will continue to advocate for them and support Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. So these varied experiences over the past 20 years, we have conservation and land use planning, economic growth in the tourism industry, community engagement, as well as my experience at Davis-Monthan. I want to bring all of these experiences and the leadership skills gained through these varied experiences to my role on the board so that I can work collaboratively with my colleagues. And I think that's something that we're lacking right now, that lack of collaboration and willingness to have dialogue and discuss different perspectives, not always agree on everything, but see how can we find common ground so that we can find solutions that benefit as many Pima County residents as possible. So what I'm hearing so far from voters, at least in Tucson, and I look forward to hearing more about issues that are important and specific to Green Valley, but three of the issues that I'm hearing the most of so far are related to water resources, affordable housing, and workforce development. So in terms of water resources, Pima County is going through a comprehensive plan update right now, and the comprehensive plan guides not just development, but infrastructure and the vision for Pima County. And so I strongly support, with my experience with the master's degree in land use planning, updating the plan with a very strong water resource element to continue to guide our water conservation strategies in light of climate change, which is happening, in light of the continued growth, residential, commercial, industrial, that's taking place throughout Pima County. All of that growth requires water, so we need to make sure we have clean and the quantity and the quality of water that's necessary for today's population as well as for future populations. Affordable housing, we have a lot of tools available at Pima County that I support. Investments in gap funding for the development of new affordable housing, down payment assistance for low-income home buyers, land use and zoning changes that remove barriers to the development of new affordable housing. And in terms of workforce development, that is one of the strategies that's included in this kind of larger vision for Pima County called the Prosperity Initiative. The goal of the Prosperity Initiative is to end the generational cycle of poverty, but it addresses affordable housing, workforce development, all the proven strategies to increase individual wealth and increase community wealth. So I support investments in all of those types of areas. Despite the fact that these types of investments are proven approaches at reducing taxpayer dollars in the long run, reducing crime and homelessness, unfortunately, the incumbent has voted consistently against these types of investments. And so I want to bring that support to the Board of Supervisors for the staff that are trying to implement these great programs that help as many Pima County residents as possible. So to just really quickly wrap up, I just want to say that this seat, although it has been held by a Republican, I think since the district was created, this seat is entirely winnable this year. Voter registration numbers are as close as they have ever been, in part due to the redistricting that took place 2 years ago. But even 2 years ago, Democrats won in District 4. Katie Hobbs, Chris Mays, Adrian Fontes, Senator Kelly, all won in District 4. So we can definitely, with enough support, we can win this seat. And so I look forward to learning more. I'm on a learning and listening phase of my campaign right now to understand what the issues are for the different communities throughout District 4. So I look forward to learning from you about what's important and what I can do as your next supervisor to support what's important and what's needed, and to make sure what's working continues to be something that the county supports. So the last thing I'll say is that we are having a fundraiser / meet and greet August 8th. Once I have details about that, if I have a sign-up sheet in the back for our email list, so if you want to be notified of that event, feel free to sign up for our newsletter, and I can let you know when that is. So again, thank you for your time, and hopefully for your vote, for your contribution, and for your volunteer time as well. Thank you.
And you go first, and then you're second.
I just have a question. I've always had those signs. The last election was, if you like your roads, vote for Steve Christie. And we have many roads that are in such terrible shape. We won't even go on them with our golf cart. And it's just not to be forgotten. Some of them are repaved and repaved, and some of the other parts are not. And just to make a general overlook for us.
Yeah, well, one thing I'll say is that we do not have a comprehensive transportation plan for Pima County. We have a road improvement and maintenance plan. And so longer term, we need to look at the infrastructure, transportation infrastructure, and those types of improvements, and not just repaving, resealing, every year, or not every year, as were the case. So I think that's really important. But I think it's worth noting that, for someone who's running on roads, where's the advocacy at the county level for these types of road improvements? With 8 years, as your county supervisor, why are you still running on roads? If you've done a good job on accomplishing that, I think maybe your campaign platform should be evolving.
But my husband and I went to the city of Tucson for the 10-year plan meetings, and then Pete Buttigieg, of course, said, we're going to have that train from Phoenix to Tucson, right? I mean, and they were saying this like 2 years ago, and everyone's saying that we are getting that, and we talked about maybe a train with the city of Tucson Planning Commission group from Tucson to the airport, Tucson down to Green Valley, Sahuarita, just to get some more going there. So I'm hoping that's in the works. But I did want to ask, besides you were saying being on the board of supervisors, I think you said that you're going to work with infrastructure, is that right? As well as, what was the second one again? Sorry.
Well, the three issues that I'm
And
hearing: water, workforce development, and affordable
And when you
housing.
say workforce development, do you mean economic growth, bringing in more businesses here?
It's more, it's workforce training, so some of it's vocational training. So we have JTED, which is, training at the high school level that's more vocational. We have training at Pima Community College, but also the one-stop program through Pima County. So somebody who is maybe laid off, and maybe it's someone that has been in a career for a long time and needs additional workforce training to align with what the job availability is now. So some of it is that. Some of the workforce development does involve recruiting, or perhaps keeping the brilliant people that we have graduating from the University of Arizona, making sure that they have jobs here in Pima County and don't have to go to Phoenix or another state to get a good high-paying job.
Great. My question to you is, they just approved the budget for the year. What would you like to add, or what would you like to subtract to see that our budget is more aligned with what the people in the area would like to have?
Well, I can't speak enough or highly enough of the Prosperity Initiative, and all credit is due to Pima County staff and then our current 4 board members who voted for it. The incumbent in District 4 voted against it, but again, it involves 13 interrelated policies to start to eliminate that generational cycle of poverty. But those issues and investment in those, and not those issues, sorry, those policies, investment in those policies is something that I would support, in future budgets, seeing an increase in that, yeah. And again, that includes things like early childhood education and child care. If you have young kids at home and you can't afford child care, it's extremely expensive, how do you then go to work? Early childhood education, again, I mentioned early, is a proven strategy at reducing, in the long run, crime and homelessness. So I would support more investment in the budget for the implementation of the overall prosperity initiative and the 13 interrelated policies that are included in that. Climate change being one other kind of cross-sectional area that is included in that. That is really important that we take a look at and plan for, be prepared for.
We got time for one more question.
Hi, I'm actually a visitor from the east side of the county, but I was just appalled to see that Christie voted against heat-related protections for workers. How would you deal with that?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't vote against that, first of all.
Yeah.
There's a stark contrast. And I think what's more disappointing about that was that it was a resolution acknowledging, it was either a week in May or the month of May as Heat Awareness Week or month. So it didn't have any policies tied to it. And so voting against it was just cruel. I mean, I don't think that he wants to see people die from the heat, but his vote doesn't make sense considering it didn't include any regulations that would be imposed on businesses or county operations. It called for, let's look at, are there policies and regulations at the county level that we should consider, such as what the city of Phoenix is doing right now, but it didn't actually adopt any of those. So, to answer your question, what would I do? I support Heat Awareness Week, educating people about how quickly the heat can get to you. It was 110 in Tucson on Thursday or Friday. It doesn't matter that we've seen 110 before. That doesn't mean that that's acceptable for people to be outside working in that heat. We have a lot of county departments that require, flood control district, for example, that require them to be outside. We need to make sure that they know if you're feeling overwhelmed, it is perfectly acceptable for you to take a break, to get water, to go in the shade. And so I think those types of, that type of education with county employees as well as employees throughout Pima County is really important.
I think you're going to be at the Women in Blue Luncheon on Tuesday next week?
I think it's Thursday the 27th.
Yes, Thursday.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the Women in Blue Luncheon. If you're a woman, guys, we can't go, sorry. It is at Grill of the Greens. You'll need to RSVP to Jeannie Buell. That's GEANNEBUEL @gmail.com to make sure we have reservations. It's at Grill at the Greens with a luncheon buffet. So Vanessa will be there to answer more questions. So thank you once again, Vanessa, for being here. Stay as long as you can. Allow each candidate to come up, introduce himself, and tell us something about his platform. And then when they're both done, we will ask questions from the audience, and we'll take turns, each one of them answering. So not a true debate, but somewhat of a focus of camaraderie, and to get some answers from both of them at the same time. And so we've chosen Brian Johnson. He is running for Pima County Treasurer. And so, Brian, would you come up and introduce yourself and let us know something about your platform?
Thank you. My name is Brian Johnson. I am running for Pima County Treasurer. And one of the reasons I am running for this office is, like District 4, it's been Republican forever, okay? And over these years, what's happened to the Treasurer's office is it's dwindled down to nothing more than literally 25 employees. And and they're mostly clerical rather than, and some IT people. And what has happened is we've lost any sense of what the treasurer actually does, because you rarely ever hear anything about the treasurer's office or what they're actually doing. And because there's no accessibility there, most of those folks are in clerical positions. They don't, and even though the treasurer doesn't make policy and shouldn't make policy, what the problem is that you can't even go there for answers anymore. Now, I know this because for the last 3 years, I served as a hearing officer on the State Board of Equalization. So if you had a problem with your valuation or for your property taxes, then I might have heard your complaint. I might have heard your issues. And what I've heard out of a lot of folks who did come and appeal was frustration. And the frustration was because they never got answers. And that's the problem that I am wanting to change. Accessibility not only to the treasurer's office, but also so that you understand the property tax system, because it actually starts with the recorder's office and it goes all the way through the treasurer's office. And during that whole time, we've got offices like the treasurer, the recorder, the assessor. We also have the county finance department where I worked for 5 years, okay, who are actually creating your tax roll. The treasurer doesn't do that, and send your tax statements. And then you also have the treasurer's office. And they've got their silos of data that don't even talk to each other. They might as well be in not only different counties, different countries maybe, because there's no connection. So you don't really get any service from them. And that's one of the main things I want to change is accessibility to the treasurer's office so you can get answers. And we were budgeted for 36 employees, but we only had 25. Now we can make a change there to provide service, because that's what government is. It's providing service to the people. Now, one of my other main platforms besides accessibility is in, like Vanessa was just saying, the Prosperity Initiative. Many of you probably don't realize, because you don't hear much about the treasurer, you pay, the property taxes come in basically twice a year, in October and April. And what happens then is that money just doesn't sit there. We actually make short-term investments with that money. Right now, most of that money is going up to Phoenix. It's going to the state treasurer's office with the local government investment pools. And they're investing in what they feel that they want to invest in, which is not Pima County. I can guarantee you that. And some of the other investments that they make are just, they look, oh, wow, we do good, we get a good yield. But what are they yielding? The amount of actual dollars and cents isn't going to be enough to offset your property taxes, to lower them. So why don't we invest in our prosperity? Why don't we invest in that Prosperity Initiative? And one of my platforms, one of my proposals is, if I'm elected to treasurer, is that I want to go to the Board of Supervisors and say, here is an idea for an investment policy, because I'm not a policy maker, you are. And the board hasn't actually had an investment policy since 1995. So I think it's about time they did. And tie it to that Prosperity Initiative. Why can't we use that money, that short-term money, and get a yield in value to the community, not necessarily dollars and cents? So I believe, and that leads me to the third thing about my campaign, is we have to have some kind of accountability. We can't just hide there in the shadows. The treasurer just can't be there. And yes, there is accountability, obviously, to the state. It's highly audited. There are hundreds, there are not hundreds, but there's quite a few state statutes that govern everything, even like the investments for, safety and liquidity. But then but to you, was there accountability to you? How do you know what the treasurer's office is doing? So when we have a policy like an investment policy from the board, require the treasurer to give quarterly reports. Any business would be doing that, right? Even any nonprofit that has investments does that. And that way it becomes public because it's in front of the board and there's accountability. So those three things, the accessibility to the office, investing in our prosperity, and accountability are the main areas of my platform. So with that, I guess I will hand it over.
Thank you. He will be telling us about his platform and introduce him himself.
Thank you, George. Appreciate it. I want to thank you back here. I came back here in January for the Petition Palooza in this room exactly. It was a great time because of you. You put me on the ballot, Green Valley. And people saw what he's done all over Pima County. 2,628 signatures I got to get on the ballot. I only needed 1,111, and you all had a big impact on that, and I thank you for getting me to this point here today and to the July 30th primary coming up. My name is Sami Hamid. Let me give you my full name, actually, Sami Irigoyen Hamid. Let me give you a little personal background about myself and who I am a little bit before going into my talking points. So I'm a biracial and bilingual person. My mom is a Mexican-American woman from Marana. My dad came from Libya as a young man to go to college at the University of Arizona in the 70s. They met while he was here, and they had me. I'm one of three brothers. I'm in the middle, so my parents have been married for 45 years and going strong still. And when I was born, just to give a little more about me, I was born premature. As a result, I'm legally blind. So if I look a little closely at things, or if I'm not looking right at you, don't hold it against me. I'm better with names and voices than I am with faces. It's got me so far in 44 years in life, I think I can keep on going with that. So, but I ask you this, like I tell people, don't judge me on my lack of vision, on my visual impairment. Judge me on my vision of what I want to do for the community and for the treasurer's office if elected. That's what I ask of you. I went to school at the School for the Deaf and Blind, graduated from there, went to Pima College and the University of Arizona where I studied political science and Spanish. After my time at U of A, I went to work as a congressional aide for Congressman Raul Grijalva when he was elected in 2002. And I was there for 8 years. So I worked all throughout Pima County, Santa Cruz County, all through Yuma County, even parts down here, because there's little parts that reach down into this area here of Pima County, with constituents. So when you think of any service that the government offers, if you need help with your Medicare, passports, VA, immigration, anything, I did that work, But I also went to a lot of events, meetings, events, ceremonies, dinners, because as you know, Raul can't be cloned and be everywhere at once. So that's what he had staff for. After working for Raul for 8 years, I decided to take a different approach and went to work at Pima County in their Office of Emergency Management, where I worked on writing emergency operations plans that affect functional needs populations, or otherwise known as vulnerable populations. Now, let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, we only have two big things we have to worry about here 3 months of the year: floods and fires. We love our monsoons, but sometimes they turn into floods. We get fires because of our dry climate and stuff like that, and because of climate change. Those are the big things we worked on. After doing that for 4 years, I decided I went to the private sector. After working in public, the federal and local government levels, I went to work as an employment specialist for Savvy Services for the Blind in 5 years. Worked all over the state, working with our blind population, helping people who either have never been in the workforce or who were in the workforce at one time and went blind, who wanted to return back into the workforce. Help them with the skills and the knowledge to go back into the workforce, and to show them that blindness is just a characteristic of who one is, just like there are characteristics of you. Those characteristics do not define you, they're just a part of who they are and who you are as a people. For the last, going on 4 years now, I started my business in the pandemic as a result, because like some of you here who are working, if not retired now, Some people lost jobs during the pandemic. I got laid off from the nonprofit sector because cuts happened when COVID-19 occurred. So I started my own business as a mobile notary. So I go all over the place. I work private clients. I work on the initiatives right now. If you haven't signed the AAA, the Abortion Access Act, please sign it. We need it on the ballot. We need to vote on it on November 5th. If you haven't signed the One Fair Wage Act, known as to increase wages for tipped workers, sign it. We need it on the ballot as well for November 5th. We can change the laws in the state that the legislature will do. We'll do it through our initiative process, and we, the voters, have the final word here. And to anyone who has a petition here, if you want to notarize, I have myself with me. I'm more than welcome to do it for. I will do it for free. I've done it several times for his honor list. I'm more than happy to do it for you. Okay, let's talk about the work of the Treasurer's Office and what my vision is for the office. When you think of the Pima County Treasurer's Office, you think of basically one thing: your property taxes. You pay them twice a year, whether it's commercial or residential property you own. Well, some people might say it's significant, the role we do. From the outside, it looks like that. From the inside, our role is big. We collect the property tax revenue, the Treasurer's Office, in which we turn around and disperse that money out to the county government, to the cities, the towns, and the taxing districts here through Pima County. That's the key role, but let's talk about what we can do to change it. We need to get some things done to change to make the office better for you, the taxpayer, or the customer here in Pima County. We need to improve the customer service. We need to, instead of you coming to us, let the office come to you. Now, a key example of that is, a comparison as an example is our Pima County Assessor, Suzanne Druby. Her office comes out to the community. She and her staff do to talk to you about the work they're doing, the property tax exemptions, and things like that. That's great. They know they come out here to Green Valley and South Edith and do that. Well, the Treasurer's Office staff should do that as well, to talk to you about what your tax bill is, to explain it, to let you know about what the primary and the secondary property tax rates are and things like that, and what goes to what, if you will. If I'm elected treasurer, I give you my word and commitment. I will beef up the customer service, if not revamp the customer service division of the Pima County Treasurer's Office, so it can be forward-facing and more public interacting with you, the taxpayer. The second thing I want to work on is when it comes to the issue of delinquent tax foreclosures. I won't assume, but I'll just take a good guess here that a good majority of you own your home outright and don't have to pay a mortgage already anymore. So the ones who pay a mortgage, this doesn't affect you, but the ones who just pay their own property taxes twice a year, you're on a fixed income. We're all on a fixed income, no matter what, whether we're working or retired. And when the valuation of your home goes up, the property tax rate goes up. Costs go up, as we've seen in the last few years. Well, people are losing their homes due to the delinquent property tax. They've not been able to pay it, their property tax. And it's affecting here in Pima County mostly seniors. As treasurer, I can't abate the property tax, but what I could try to do is to prevent, if not try to stop, within my authority as treasurer, delinquent tax foreclosures. The way I would do that is I would, with the staff, if I'm elected, the customer service staff would be working with the Arizona Department of Housing to reach out to you, the property tax owner who may be behind on their taxes, to say, hey, what's going on? We see you're behind. You haven't paid for the last year. What's the situation that's going on? If the taxpayer says, I can't afford it, my income's limited, I can't pay the taxes, we would work to point you in the right direction to the Department of Housing to apply for some of the homeowner assistance money, which doesn't just cover mortgages, but in this case, it can also cover delinquent property taxes. And we do that. That was created because of the COVID-19 pandemic to help out homeowners who were behind on their mortgages or behind on their property taxes. Last fiscal year, the state put in $150 million into the Housing Assistance Trust Fund, where that money could come out of. This year, they only put in $15 million, as you know. That's because of, unfortunately, the flat tax that took effect this last year, where the highest amount, the highest rate, the flat tax rate is 2.5%. So from going last year to having over $1 billion deficit the state had, $1 billion surplus the state had last year, we're in a $1.4 billion deficit right now. So we can't be handing out money like we used to. We've had to make, the state had to make cuts. And as you know, last week, the governor and the legislature came to an agreement in the budget. The budget was signed. My third priority work for as treasurer to get done here would be on the issue of financial literacy that affects our children, our kids. So right now, when kids learn about financial literacy, they learn it mostly from the home. Some get a good education and get good upbringing of the issue of that, so they make wise financial decisions. Some don't, so they're not set for success, if you will. They make bad financial decisions in their early adult years that affect them to the rest of their lives. They can't get a home, they can't get a loan, they can't get a car, on and on and on. What I would like to do if elected treasurer is to create the curriculum with a consultation with the Pima County School Superintendent's Office. That in my first year I would like to pilot with every school district, at least one middle school and high school here in Pima County, to create a financial literacy curriculum that can be taught. So those students, when they go through school, especially when they graduate high school, they have the tools for success. They're not going to be bogged down in debt. They're not going to be getting personal credit cards that will lead to that debt. At least they can make the right financial decisions and set them on the right path and financial footing in their adult years. Now, this is what I ask from you now. You've helped me get on the ballot. Now I ask you to vote for me in the July 30th primary. We got a chance to turn the office from red to blue. For 56 years, the Pima County Treasurer's Office has been held by Republicans. James Lee Kirk for 32 years, Beth Ford for 23 years, and of course the appointed incumbent who was appointed back in April for the rest of the year. We can break that 56-year-old hold, ladies and gentlemen, in the Treasurer's Office. We can do it here. I ask for your vote. I'm the guy that can do that can win that office, turn it from red to blue, and make these changes for the better to serve you, the people of Pima County, especially here in the Green Valley Sahuarita area. I ask for your vote. Not just your vote I ask for as well, I appreciate that, but I could use your support, you telling your friends and your family as well to vote for me. I would love your financial support if you could. You can donate. I'm going to have envelopes I'll carry and give to you later. You can go to my website, votesammyfortreasurer.com. That's the number 4, votesammyfortreasurer.com. You can donate with an envelope. You can donate online if you like. Any bit would help. But as the time goes on, I would love to hear your concerns, your thoughts, your ideas, your questions. I've been doing that since I got in the race January 12th. I want to hear more. I'll be doing this all the way to the end. Send me to the general election after July 30th to the November 5th general election. I'll be doing that and be working with you guys as well and hear that. But I ask for your vote. I ask for your support. I thank you so much for your time. I look forward to hearing your comments and questions. And thank you to George and the Green Valley Democrats. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Does anyone have a questions for the Treasurer's Department that one of these folks could make changes on? Anyone?
I do.
Then you're up.
Ryan, you mentioned that the funds that are the tax. I just want to make sure I got this right. The funds that we pay as far as taxes are invested. They're investing this money.
Yes, yeah.
What type of investments?
Oh, okay.
To
Well,
me, this is irregular. You shouldn't
Okay.
be taking stuff that's meant to go towards things that are budgeted for,
Right.
and gambling with them.
right.
That caught my attention.
No, we're not gambling with it. It's actually, it's done all the time, not only with the counties, with the state, whatever, and it is statutorily regulated. There are statutes that require certain safety requirements, like you can't invest in a corporate bond that's lower than an A1 rating. And there was also statutory requirements for liquidity. Obviously, because that money comes in, like I said, let's say in October, and it's
Needed.
it's needed
Liquid.
throughout the year to for the school districts, fire districts, and so on, right? So that money just doesn't sit there under the proverbial mattress, okay? So we go ahead and we invest that money, and it is audited and highly regulated by statute. So it's not a question of this.
So do they ever have losses when they do this?
Typically, no.
So never.
There hasn't been a loss since I know there was one loss back in, and I got this from Brian Bickle, who ran for treasurer as a Democrat 4 years ago, that he had discovered one where they lost like $15,000. This was Beth Ford, who was the treasurer, and this was back maybe almost 20 years ago.
Okay.
Okay.
We need
And that's, but it would be hard to do that.
Yeah.
You have to
Right.
follow the rules, so to speak. It
Yes.
would be difficult to
Let's
do.
let Sammy answer the question too.
We can't control the market, but obviously losses, short-term losses, God forbid we have long-term losses happen. Right now, Pima County invests $2 billion right now. We have $2 billion invested right now in the market and things like that. And one thing that was talked about earlier was about the investment. Under state law, the chief investment officer of Pima County is the county treasurer. So if the board doesn't take a role or get involved, the board of supervisors, who is considered the board of investment by state law, the treasurer can do it. If I'm elected, I would right now have the first, last, and final word of where that money goes, as long as I follow the contours and boundaries of state statute.
But doesn't the money go to Phoenix, didn't you say?
Well,
He says that.
that's only because our current treasurer is not really doing much with it. So they take the easy route and say, okay, we'll invest some money in local government investment pools. These LGIPs are managed out of the state treasurer's office in Phoenix.
So, and your plan is to keep it here?
Keep it here. in
And
Phoenix.
do you know what you will invest in? What kind of investments you plan?
Yeah, like I said, with in alignment with the Prosperity Initiative. Like right now, okay, let's give a good example. We have $3.9 million invested in Chevron. Okay, why would we invest in a fossil fuel company? I'm sure there are good investments in renewable energy that we could be investing in instead.
You want to add anything else to that?
Sure, some of it goes to Phoenix, some of it's invested locally. I know Beth Ford did have a role when she was camp treasurer, and she did do some investments, and that didn't go through Phoenix at all, things like that. And I'm willing to look and consider and hear and see, but follow the Prosperity Initiative, like I said. But also, at the end of the day, the job of treasurer, you want the highest yield possible. That's what I'm going to look at first and foremost, as well as working to follow the Prosperity Initiative, but also follow the state laws that govern what the treasurer's office can invest and not invest in.
Okay. You got a question in the back? Yes.
Yeah, sort of a question. What's the current budget for the treasurer's office? And can it support the authorized 36 positions or just the 25 that are currently there? Because both of you talked about improving accessibility and customer service and tax record delinquencies among seniors. That's going to involve more people, more training, potentially better software, technology infrastructure. What are your thoughts on this?
All right, Sammy, you'll start first, followed by Brian.
I haven't had a chance to look at the budget yet. I know from the last budget that's going to end on Sunday, June 30th, $3.9 million right now. That's the budget, $3.9 million. The last budget that I saw, the current budget they're operating under right now, 30 positions, 25 are filled right now. So at this moment I have 5 positions. Now in the future that could change. I could do that. I got to just reprogram and move some money around and retool some positions. I'll retool the vacant positions. People that are there now, I would not mess up their livelihood or things like that as well. So if I'm elected, I'm going to have the ability to bring in some good people to get the work done, professionals I want to bring in to add to the professionals that are there now, and I would do that. It can be done. It can be done. Now, mind you, I'm going to have to, of course, like anybody, you always have to learn how the operation works and things like that. So I got to come in with my eyes wide open and an open mindset, not a fixed mindset. I bring an open mindset to the job to learn. If things are going good, I'll do that. I'll leave it alone. If things can be improved to be better, then I'll make the change. Now, one thing was talked about, the issue of transparency I wanted to bring here. You don't know what's going on, they said. Well, you only know what's going on usually when things are bad, right? Look at Santa Cruz County, what happened. Treasurer resigned. She got in trouble for some bad financial decisions, even pocketing some money, which she has been alleged to do. She's under an FBI investigation right now. We don't have that problem here in Pima County, thank God. We spend our money well, we invest it and manage it well. We don't want to have bad news coming out of the treasurer's office. If I'm elected, I want to help make know what we do, the good things we do for the people of Pima County.
Would you like to answer that?
Yeah. What's going to happen in the treasurer's office, as far as I'm concerned, is really a total revamp of what the office does in terms of full-time employees and so on. And what's going to happen is a lot of the functions that are happening right now that the treasurer ought to be responsible for, that, for example, if you go to Maricopa or Coconino or any other county the treasurer is doing, like the tax roll. The treasurer doesn't even create the tax roll. But that's done, you know, so there's going to be a lot of movement in terms of employees from the different various departments, like the county finance department, into maybe the treasurer's office. And this will occur over a course of time, because the treasurer who gets elected in November will have the ability to create the budget come January. Okay, so it won't happen in this fiscal year 24-25 budget, but in the next budget. So
I have a question. I'll ask the two of you. I know Casares Kelly and over in the recorder's office has spent a great deal of time in the last year of upgrading her computer system and allowing then voters to access their records and be able to print them out. Brian, that question is for you. Does the Treasurer's Department need an upgrade in their computer system? And if so, what would you do or not do?
yeah, okay. So what the recorder did, what Gabriella did, was she went to this company called Tyler Technology, and because she had a problem actually with property tax with property records. There's been this thing about deed fraud going all across the country. So she went to this company, and this Tyler Technology does have an all-government software solution that will carry the whole thing through. The assessor's using it to some extent right now for certain things, like their cost system, and even the superintendent of schools has started to use some elements of this. My proposal would be that the treasurer's office jump in with the Tyler Technology software, and that we go from there, and that would basically help, you know, be able to solve a lot of those problems.
Sammy, you want to answer that question?
Sure. To the issue of technology, and my opponent and I disagree a little bit. When it comes to tire technology, I'm not going to claim I know something I don't know. I have to go in there and take a look at it and see what it's about a little bit more, because I don't want to make a commitment saying, yeah, well, you will implement it. Then I have no idea, or I might say it didn't work out. Say, oops, sorry guys, I made a promise I can't keep, I can't deliver. Not going to do that. I'm going to look at it first and see how it can work and what can be done. However, though, I do believe that in the future, if I'm elected treasurer, that we need to keep our IT functions in the department. Right now, the treasurer's office contracts their IT services and functions out to a vendor. When you do that, you have a few problems. One, costs more actually to contract to a vendor. Two, you have no control over what that vendor does per se. Three, you have no proprietary ownership of that program whatsoever. That's owned by the vendor, and you give those aspects up of it when you do that as well. But also to add a little bit more to the previous question that I want to talk about. But those are the things I would do. But to add a little more, as treasurer, I control just a few things of my office. I control my budget and how I spend my money. When it comes to policy and things, how I do, I have very little to next to no authority on policy. If I want to get some policies created and done, I need to talk to the Board of Supervisors. I know I can get 3 votes. I hope to get Vanessa so we can get a 4th vote to get these changed and done. I mean it. I've known Vanessa for a long time, guys. She can tell you. We've been friends for years, many years, to get that done. But also I'm going to need the cooperation of the county administrator's office as well to get those things done. It just doesn't happen where I can just snap my fingers and do that. Some parts you have to work collaboratively with other partners like the assessor, the recorder, and the superintendent, as well as the Board of Supervisors and county administrators. This job is just one partner of many of the row officers to get work done as county treasurer. I can do that. I have relationships with I know the superintendent, the county recorder, and the assessor. I know them well. I know the members of the Board of Supervisors. I can make those things happen and make changes because I've had those long-standing relationships for many, many years.
You got a question here?
For both candidates,
We'll start with Sammy this time, since Brian went first last.
if this is going to be the first time that we, as Democrats, possibly have that position, for both candidates, what do you think is probably the most fundamental thing that we should do to keep that, to possibly, extend that out beyond the, so as from a point of view from us, what do you think is the number one? I want to see the Democrat continuously in that position start to thrive. How do you go about doing that?
Well, first of all, the way I would do that if I'm elected, I'm going to reach out to the public, push the word out of what we're doing, using the various tools that the Treasurer's Office has, and if they don't have, we'll obtain it. Social media, and outreach communication staff, going to events, things like that. And one thing I would do also that's never been done by the Treasurer's Office, publish an annual report of the work that the office does, of how many people we've served, collected revenue from, how much money's collected that goes out the door, our investments, and any changes we make, how many events, things like that. That's how you do transparency, when you let the public see what you're doing, and you also tell the public what you're doing as well. That door shouldn't be closed to the public or even the media as far as I'm concerned. It needs to be wide open, and I'll keep it wide open if I'm elected. And if I'm elected treasurer, I promise you this, I'll work hard. I plan on being there a long time, guys. I really do, if you elect me. I plan to be there for many, many years. I got a lot of work to do, and I'm ready to roll my sleeves up if I'm elected. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, sorry. Brian, would you like to answer that?
Okay, so let me preface this, okay? It's been Republican for a long time, and this is a predominantly Democratic county, all right? We've got the voter registration beating the Republicans, and this is the only office, this is the only countywide office that has always been Republican. Now, how do we keep it? Well, first, how do we get it? The first thing to do is to get it, is to show the voters, particularly those independent voters, right, that I, for example, have the competency, the experience, and the broad knowledge that the Republican doesn't have, and show what they have not done, and then show what we will do. And once we reestablish that with the public, especially, like I said, the independent voters, we can hold on to it.
I have a question for you. It appears to the general public, in my point of view, is we are in our Pima County government, we have silos. We have like the assessor, the treasurer, the recorder's office, superintendent of the schools, and there doesn't appear to be strong communications between those three important positions. How would we go about increasing our communications so we better support one another? Brian, you're up. Sam, you follow.
Well, like I mentioned earlier, if we have a integrated data system, we're already sharing data, okay? So that you don't even have to go, for example, this happens all the time, believe it or not. You want to change your address, you go to the assessor's office, and who knows if the treasurer's got it, so who knows where your property tax statement went, right? This happens a lot, believe it or not, because I know and I work there. So to create that communication, we have to work within one system. We have to have a context, an infrastructure, which we're all working in together, and that's how we create that communication. So,
Sammy, would you like to answer that one?
To get this done here, it goes even beyond that, actually. It's even before infrastructure. It's just reaching out to the other fellow elected officials and doing that. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, Suzanne, let's have a talk and talk about some things, or Gabriella, or Dustin, the other row officer. So let's work on that and see how to do that. That's where it starts. When you build that camaraderie, communication, and trust, then from there you can start to work to build the infrastructure. Otherwise, if you have no trust, you get nothing done. It has to be done here in this case here. When it comes to working with other people, I have that background. Give you an example of 2 laws I've worked on, 2 changes. I've served on several boards. George, you mentioned one earlier, the Primavera Foundation Board. I serve on there. Been on there now for 6 years. I served on the School for the Deaf and Blind Board, where I went to school. So that's an agency that teaches the state's deaf and blind kids throughout Arizona. Sit on the Pima County Merit Law Enforcement Commission. When I was on the School for Deaf and Blind Board, back in 2003, I was appointed. I was a young man, 23 years old. Got the grade or 2 to show for it. Teachers would say to me, Sammy, we weren't included in the Prop 301 funding, the pay raises for teachers that was passed in 2000. And so I said, let me see what I can do to help get that law changed. So I worked with the late Senator Jorge Luis Garcia, who used to represent West and South Tucson and downtown Tucson. He went to the Senate President at the time, Ken Bennett, asked for permission to add an amendment to a bill, an education bill, to make that fix, to correct it, to include the teachers of the School for the Deaf and Blind. into the raise of Prop 301 money because they've earned it, because they have more credentials than a public school teacher. They teach special education. Got passed by the legislature, signed by a Democratic governor, Janet Napolitano. That's what the cooperation it takes to show to work with Republicans and Democrats. Did that with the last Republican governor, Doug Ducey, in the legislature. Worked to create a law that stopped the Department of Child Safety from taking away children from blind parents just because they're blind. They said, well, you're blind, you can't raise them, therefore we're going to take your child away, sever your parental rights. That stopped. Worked on the legislature, get a law passed. Governor Ducey signed it. Unanimous, both bills that became law were. I can work with anybody, Republican, Democrat, no matter who they are, whether it's my fellow Democrats down here or if Treasurer Kimberly Yee up in Phoenix, I can do it. I have the ability, I have the background, I have the knowledge, and I have the energy to get that done.
We got one more question down front, and then
So
we'll
going back to
wrap it up.
transparency and what you asked, would you, this is great, everything you guys are going to do, but would you give out like a quarterly newsletter to the public, to your constituents? I mean, would we have like, is there any kind of like update what's going on in county government? Do we have a PBS station or something that tells us what's going on weekly or monthly? Something that will really tell what's going on with the Treasurer's office.
Sammy, you went second last time, so you're up first this time.
Okay. Well, I would provide updates, through email, through social media. Now to get those are quarterly updates, but for an annual report, it would be once a year. It'd be published in many formats, whether it's print, email, social media, online, things like that. You name it. And when it comes to giving updates, I would hope to be on our PBS channel, Channel 6 down here, Arizona Public Media, to do that as well. And work with the media. One thing, what I would do if elected with a staff, we will reach out to the media and let them know about the work that the Treasurer's Office is doing. The only way they know about what you're doing unless you call them and tell them, and we'll do that. And as a result, it just furthers the work that the office was Treasurer will do if I'm elected, to get the word out to you and others here in the public as well, to do that. And if you reach out to us, we'll tell you. If not, we'll find a way to get it out to you, the public. There's many avenues and vehicles to get the word out about the work that the office and the Treasurer will be doing if I'm elected. And we'll utilize all those tools.
Brian, would you like to answer that question?
Yeah, the county already has a very robust communications department. Over the last 10 years, they really have expanded that and really reached out on all sorts of media platforms. And so it would just be required that it would just take basically for the treasurer to participate in it like the assessor does now, like the superintendent of schools does now. I'm always getting Facebook posts from them, right? You can always see them on different social media and so on. So the treasurer just has to be participating in that, and we've already got it there. So we'll just use it, what we've got. So.
I would give a hike to both of them. If you're not getting the Pima County newsletter, please go to pimacounty.gov and sign up to receive it. Sometimes it comes out every day, it seems like, but it's at least weekly.
Yeah.
And many of the departments will send you stuff, and specifically if you're looking for something for the environment, the environmental department will send you stuff. So it's let's thank these two guys. They've been at it.
Thank you. Thank you.